country and taking the time to slow down, meet people, invest in yourself through the sharing and value of communication that comes from passion and drive, I think is extremely important and often overlooked these days. You know, in the word investment itself, you're generally kind to look at your return on your investment or your interest at that point. And I think a lot of people fail to stop, or not fail, but don't stop to recognize that your patience, your charisma, these are all personal assets that you can invest in on a daily basis. Now, we're actually we built a token, it's on a platform. The quick guise of this is basically, we've made helping people profitable. Now a lot of this is based off intellectual property, so there's IP in the background, we have all these cool APIs that are functioning, and I'm not going to tell you about any of that, because I don't think it's that important. If you're interested in learning more about that stuff, you can come talk to me. I've got NDAs people can sign if they're accredited investors or venture capitalists, but I'm going to leave all that behind. The things that I want to talk about today are mostly personal interests, investments, this disruptive space that's taking place, and how we control the story that's in front of us now. So gratitude is the best place to begin, so that's why I jumped in and thanked all of you guys here. A lot of what I grew up thinking was very misaligned with my own personal sentiments and beliefs was the capitalist structure. I thought, oh, this was such a bad thing. As I got older, I realized it incentivized people to be creative, to think outside of the blocks, potentially. And what's been noticeable, though, is that profit had also usually been driven over the personal investment side of things. Again, the water, clean food, clean air, these are all extremely important parts of our environment and the most important part of ourselves. If we ruin our environment, there's no room for this creative story to take place. So as we, so we all know that there's problems, right? We won't even list them, but we know there's a lot of problems. I think the media and the news has driven a lot of fear in itself. And people seem to, or we generally want to consistently dive into that fear, look at more problems and find more problems. But this is one of those very exciting times where in the mid-90s, you had the opportunity to create solutions with the new tech that was available. Now, the tech is not the driver of any of these really interesting changes. It's individuals like yourself. It's the visionary ideas that you will come up with that are driven by love, your gratitude for the things that you receive. So a very esoteric friend of mine, he started a company, some of you may know, it's called Silk Almond Milk. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. He started it with only $500. And one of the things he shared with me is that he was originally started in Vipassana in India. He was thinking to himself, you know, my dad's a capitalist. I don't really like that people don't like capitalists. And something hit him, soy, I should sell soy. Now this is a very vague idea. He got back on a plane, flew to the United States, and started a company called White Wave. You know, he was selling dairy products, soy dairy products, tempeh, this type of stuff. And all of a sudden the FDA said something that was started to approve of soya being healthy for you. And they went from just a few $100 a month company, $1,000 a month company, to a multi-billion-dollar industry in a very short period of time, taking the lion's share of that marketplace. Now this is all about timing. The abstract opportunities that you can take or you can capitalize on is really about the movement of kind of almost a universal wave that's taking part underneath. So if you've listened to any of the speakers that were here before, there's that kind of resonating factor of who we are or what we are in this universe, not just from an investment or a governance standpoint. You know, the word anarchy means without a chief or a ruler, but it's almost ironic. A lot of the people I've met here are great chiefs of themselves. They're great at governing their own individuality. And it's important to remember that we are the creators of our story. So building the better future, it takes all of us, right? It's not just me or you or the group of us. It takes absolutely everyone to kind of re-change the story. So if you've been following Arcane Bear on our YouTube channel, which I suggest you check out, we've had some great guests on recently. People like Bruce Lipton, Dean Radin. These are PhDs in psychology or biology. And the resonating story that you see drive a line between all of these is one simple thing, that our conscious interpretation of the things that we view on a daily basis change the reality that we exist in. So from a cellular level, if you wake up and you see love every day, if you see gratitude, inspiration, those things will continually compound and amplify themselves to the point where our genetic life is not determined by the genes that we're given from our parents. We actually have the ability to control what genetic dispositions we have based off how we view the things that we are living today. Dean Radin, another PhD in psychology with a master's in physics, was one of the leaders in doing a double split test, where we realized that light didn't just perform as a wave, but also as a particle. And then when you changed your mind on the way the experiment would actually come out in the end, you would achieve different results. And there are many other experiments in this field where we've scientifically proven that we change the quantum layer or the fabric of reality with our thoughts. And there's lines where this is obviously locked up. We know for a fact, at least at this degree, no matter if everyone changes their mind in this room, gravity or electromagnetic gravity, whatever you want to call it, is still going to exist. And we are bound by certain laws. But our story together, that's the one I'm really interested in. Next slide. So this has become, I believe, a battle in media, in content. The disparaging disassociation that comes when we're constantly bombarded with things that make us scared. Nuclear threats here, diseases there, economic collapse this way. These are all actually perpetually negative and negatively increasing in the way our story plays out. What Arcane Bear is choosing to do is change that story. It's to help change the minds of people by focusing on solutions instead of problems. There are a massive trillion-dollar industries at the face of this battle, at the face of this beast, if you wanted to call it that. You know, we're all born with the same body, more or less. Whether you're a male or a female, we all have hearts, we all have minds, and we bleed, as Chuck and Melinda pointed out very eloquently, with the will of our gut and our intuition, that we're driven by this kind of animal self. So that beast that we're battling right now really is taking the fight to the media. And this is where I think a lot of things need to change. If we change our viewpoint on the way we feel about the interpretation of the data that we're getting, and don't just focus on problems, we're going to end up living in a better world. And that's one of the things that's driven me to be so excited and to end up on stage here too, which is a very humbling side effect of something that I started working on. I never imagined that this is where this would lead just 6 or 7 short months ago, was to share this vision with other people that are passionate about what they believe in and passionate about changing the world with these new disruptive technologies. So, back to this idea that we are not just the directors and writers, but we're the actors in this story. One of the great changes in my life is when I realized that I wasn't the story itself. When I took that burden of being someone off of my shoulders and realized that there's a story taking place. There's a bigger story that we're a part of writing right now. This history that ends up in the books many years later. The legacy that we leave to our generations, the children afterwards, are really the most important part. I was living on the side of the jungle mountain. I have a farm there, over 150 different fruit trees. We have solar, greenhouses, medicinal plants from ayahuasca, and many other sacred plant medicines in that field. The story that we're focused on creating is really the story that comes to life. So as we surrender to the story that happens and realize that we are just a part of this story, nothing is impossible. These shared visions of our story become our collective reality. So the next one here. I'll go with the last one, sure. One more, there we go. So basically whenever I think of the future, I see all you. I see myself included in that story, and I'm more inspired than ever to be building in this disruptive space. The amount of support that we've gotten is overwhelming. We're doing everything privately because there are a lot of big companies that see the value in what we're doing. Again, like I said, if you are interested, because this is technically about a token, but not specifically, if you're interested in any ideas, I've got business cards, you can come up to speak with me afterwards. We have non-disclosure agreements, part of a good business ethic for those who are interested in sharing intellectual property. I just want to give you, again, one more thanks and deep respects of gratitude and blessings. Take your journey and change your story, because it's really, we're the deciders of what happens next.